Yeah. Not for work, right? It just doesn't.
Our anniversary.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Charlottesville, University of Monticello, and went to winery.
Yeah.
We're live.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, 93. I do not. I'm sorry. I know, but I read the ordinance.
No.
Yeah. You can pull all these things. Don't worry about it.
Right, and there's no mask if you're fully vaccinated, right?
There's no danger coming. They're truly intelligent. Very, very
So
minimal,
both my
right?
kids,
Hey, you're right.
both my kids had, fever, runny nose, I was like, oh my God, they could have flu, they were not. Ended up getting tested and came back negative, and the doctor told me her words were, the kids have viral infections like they did prior to the
It's
pandemic.
normal. Like the cold.
I feel really bad, I got my son tested, over, he's 9, yeah.
And they don't get it bad, though. It's clear up like that.
Yeah,
All right. You all right?
my son had a
Please rise for the pledge of allegiance.
yeah.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This regular meeting of the Township Council is being held in accordance with the schedule of meetings of the Township Council, established and adopted by the Township Council, which schedule designated the time, date, and place of this meeting. Adequate public notice of this meeting has been provided pursuant to the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act. We are using an electronic amplifying and recording device, and in order to obtain an audible and clear record, we request that all those wishing to speak be recognized and state your name and address directly into the microphone. The recording device is to be solely utilized by the Township Clerk's Office for the preparation of the minutes and shall be the official record of the Township Council meetings. Roll call.
Mr. Hutchison?
Present.
Ms. Grace? Mr. Mignon?
Here.
Mrs. Stubbs? Mrs. Winters?
I believe she will be late.
Mrs. Strato?
Here,
Mr. Mercado?
he will be late.
Mr. Parliament?
Here.
Mr. Curtis?
Here.
Mr. Workman?
Here.
Chief Harkins?
Here.
Mr. Chavo?
Present.
We will now have the first public portion. This is for agenda items only. Anyone addressing council may speak one at a time. Please state your name and your address. You will have 3 minutes to speak. Anyone? Paul?
Evening, Council. Paul Krug, Blackwood Estates. With regard to ordinance 2108, I guess, is capital improvements separated in some way from the budget, and why so?
Go ahead, Tom, you can best
Yeah,
explain it.
it's only tied to the budget in terms of what's called the capital improvement fund, which is the 5% that's required to put down in order to approve a bond ordinance at the bar. So built into this is exactly 371, 250, 58. So that's what we took from the capital improvement fund, which was a combination of what we had in reserve and what we put in this year's budget. I believe we put 200,000 in this year's budget, correct?
And in order to be a capital improvement fund, in order for it to be in the capital budget, it has to have a life, the purchase has to have a life of 5 years or higher.
Right. And that's all spelled out in local bond law, as Jay said.
Okay,
So you're talking about repaving of streets, vehicles for, like dump trucks for our public works department, things like that. Things for our police department.
Sidewalks.
those are things from an accounting perspective that can be depreciated over time? Is that why it's
They can be
separated out?
capitalized.
Capitalized over time?
That's the important part, being capitalized.
Okay.
It's based on a weighted average useful life.
Statute under 48:2-21 says that it must have a useful life of at least 5 years in order for it to go in.
Correct. And when they put together, they being bond counsel, in this case, Department McKay, they have to pay close attention to make sure that everything that's listed, because we give them a full listing of what, everything we're going to do, that everything that's listed will be within that, will be 5 years or more.
Okay, understood. Appreciate the explanation. I guess where a layperson like myself gets a bit confused after the last budget meeting was we had a $3.8 million surplus. I think that number may have been a little different, maybe 3.1 after some deductions had been made. But pulling over that surplus, is there a reason that can't be used towards projects like this?
I think we used most of, did we use most of the surplus?
We did, we only left about 500,000 in the surplus.
And the reason why you do it over a lifespan like that is because, say you were paving Shoes Landing Road here. If you put it in the regular municipal budget, the taxpayers today are paying for that road that might have a lifespan of 10 years. If you do it in a capital project, you're spanning that out over the taxpayers for the next 20 years or 10 years, whatever the project may be. So a road that's going to be in our town is spread out over a longer period of time, as opposed to hitting the taxpayers today who may move out of town tomorrow.
And I don't want to get confused here. We're not taking anything out for 20 years. The average life of a bond is about 11 years.
Okay, so the reason is to spread out the cost, understood. And these projects, the reason you want to spread out that cost, that's why these projects are separated outside of our municipal budget.
Correct.
Is that correct?
And then that's because they're going to be capitalized.
Okay. So what's in the budget cannot be capitalized?
No.
Okay. All right, understood. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Burns?
Good evening, Council. Brian Burns from Ariel. I was looking at the agenda and I noticed there was an agreement with the Township Police Department and Camden County Technical School for security officer. Who pays for that officer? Is it the Board of Education or is it Township residents?
School board pays for
Correct.
Okay, that's
And the county school board for that.
that. Yeah.
correct. Okay, I just wanted to make sure it would not really rub me the wrong way. I guess the township taxpayers were paying for a county.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else on agenda items only? Seeing none, we'll close the first public portion. Proclamation.
Tourette Syndrome Awareness Day, whereas Tourette syndrome is an inherited neurological disorder that's characterized by involuntary physical and vocal tics that occur many times a day. And whereas Tourette syndrome is often accompanied by other mental health disorders such as attention deficit and obsessive compulsive disorder, learning disabilities, and anxiety. And whereas Tourette syndrome and tic disorders affect 1 in 100 children. More than 20,000 school-aged children in the state of New Jersey are dealing with Tourette syndrome, and although some of these cases are aided by medication, there is no standard treatment or known cure for the disorder. And whereas there is an important need for more professional help and expertise to identify, counsel, and treat people with Tourette syndrome, a disorder that is often misdiagnosed and misunderstood. And whereas positive actions to assist children and families living with Tourette syndrome would result from a broadening of public and professional knowledge and acceptance of Tourette syndrome. And whereas the Tourette Association of America is actively providing services to families, educating medical professionals and teachers, and supporting research to better understand the signs of treatments of TS. Now therefore be it resolved that David R. Mayor, Mayor of the Township of Gloucester, and Rolando Mercado, President of the Council, do hereby proclaim June 4th, 2021 as Tourette Syndrome Awareness Day in the Township of Gloucester as a special day to promote understanding, compassion, and acceptance for all of our fellow citizens who deserve and need our support to break the stigma that surrounds Tourette syndrome.
The next proclamation, thank you.
Recognizing the month of June as LGBTQ+ Pride Month. Whereas all are welcome in the Township of Gloucester to live, work, fight, and every family deserves a place to call home, where they feel safe, happy, and supported by their community. And whereas it is imperative that individuals in our community, regardless of sexual orientation, gender identity, and expression, feel valued, safe, and supported by their neighbors and community leaders. And whereas the month of June has been recognized as LGBTQ+ Pride Month and celebrates the cultural, civic, and economic contributions of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, two-spirit, pansexual, asexual, gender fluid, non-binary, intersex, as well as heterosexual and cisgender allies. And whereas we must acknowledge that the LGBTQ+ community continues to face systematic discrimination, including restricted rights, social stigma, access to healthcare, and violence. And whereas despite being marginalized, the LGBTQ+ community continues to celebrate authenticity, acceptance, and love. Now therefore be it resolved that David R. Mayor, Mayor of the Township of Gloucester, and Rolando Mercado, President of Council, do hereby proclaim the month of June 2021 as LGBTQ+ Pride Month in the Township of Gloucester, and urge all residents to work together in building a culture of inclusiveness and to respect and honor the diversity of our community.
Thank you. Bid report,
Leasing agreement for the rental of property located at 905 Hickstown Road, Block 15107, Lot 1, and 1729 Ariel Road, Block 13901, Lot 7. Yes.
do I have a motion to accept the bid report?
So moved. Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Hutchison?
Yes.
Ms. Grace? Yes. Mr. Minio?
Yes.
Mrs. Stubbs? Mrs. Trotter?
Yes. Waive the reading and accept the minutes?
Executive session, April 12th, 2021, and regular session, April 12th, 2021, and April 26th, 2021.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Roll call?
Mr. Hutchison?
Yes.
Ms. Grace?
Yes.
Mr. Minio?
Yes.
Mrs. Stubbs? Mrs. Trotter?
Yes.
Mr. Mercado?
Yes.
We now have our first reading of ordinance. O-21-08, bond ordinance authorizing the completion of various capital improvements and the acquisition of various pieces of capital equipment in and for the Township of Gloucester, County of Camden, New Jersey, appropriating the sum of $7,796,000 $1,262. Therefore, authorizing the issuance of general obligation bonds or bond anticipation notes of the Township of Gloucester, County of Camden, New Jersey, in the aggregate principal amount of up to $7,425,011, making certain determinations and covenants and authorizing certain related actions in connection with the foregoing. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Second?
Roll call?
Mr. Hutchinson?
Yes.
Ms. Grace?
Yes.
Mr. Munoz?
Yes.
Mrs. Stubbs? Yes. Mrs. Trotta?
Yes.
Mr. Mercado?
Yes.
We will now have the second reading of ordinance O-21-06. We will have a public hearing on this. Anyone?
Madam Vice President, just for a moment,
Sorry.
I should inform that this ordinance 06 and 07 has not yet been reported back by the planning board.
Okay,
In order to pass it on the second reading, you need a recommendation from the planning board. You can handle both these ordinances one of two ways. You can table them, then they'll have to be re-noticed again for the next meeting after we get a report back from the planning board. If you decide to go forward with the public hearing, you still cannot vote on the ordinance when it comes to a vote. You'll have to wait for it to come in. It might involve some amendment or change, and will require another notice anyway.
so if we table them and then bring them back, then we'll have a public hearing at that time.
That's correct. That's the best way to go.
Okay.
Madam Vice President, I'll make that motion to table ordinance 021-06 and 021-07. I'll second that.
Thank you. Roll call to table.
Mr. Hutchinson?
Yes. To table.
Ms. Grace?
Yes.
Mr. Munoz?
Yes.
Mrs. Stubbs? Yes. Mrs. Trotta?
Yes.
Mr. Mercado?
Yes, to table.
We will now have the consent agenda. Any council person? Oops.
Resolution number 151.
Here we go.
Added per month in the bottom sentence. Just for clarification.
All right, so on resolution, on 151, resolution authorizing the execution of a lease agreement with Central Jersey Waste and Recycling for the lease of premises.
905.
I'm sorry.
905 is down there.
Yes, I'm sorry, I stopped for a minute. 905 Hickstown Road, Block 15107, Lot 1, and 1729 Uriel Road, Block 13901, Lot 7. We just want to make it known that the figures stated on there, the $5,450 is per month. Okay? Any questions or anything for the consent agenda, council? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion, including the change to resolution 21:05-151, which includes per month.
Correct.
I'll second.
Second? Andrea, thank you. All right.
Mr. Hutchinson?
Yes.
Ms. Grace?
Yes.
Mr. Munoz?
Yes.
Mrs. Stubbs? Yes. Mrs. Trotta?
Yes.
Mr. Mercado?
Yes.
And Mrs. Leonard? Yes.
Okay, we now have the GT and Gov access question. Bear with me. These are reading out, so that these are answers. All right. I'll do my best. All right. First one up is from Sam Sweet of Elizabeth Place in Ariel. Question for council: Gloucester Township is scheduled to receive $7.6 million in COVID relief funds from the state of New Jersey. When will the funds be received? With that being said, why are we borrowing so much for the capital projects? Can the COVID money be used to offset these costs? Is that the plan? In the past 5 years, when it has come to these capital projects, It has been proven that Gloucester Township has overborrowed approximately one-third of the overall cost. Overborrowing increases our debt service payments, which then increases taxes. Has or will council go through the projects and make a concerted effort that it doesn't happen this year? All right. Did you put answers on these
You
things?
want me to respond?
Go ahead. Yeah.
So to the first question, the 7.6 million is divided in two, so it's 3.8 million in 2021 and 3.8 million in 2022. We do not know when this money will be dispersed at this point. To the second question, as far as using it in the capital budget, there's nothing that I have seen in anything that's been put out so far that says that this can be used for anything other than sewer, water, or broadband. So that would tell me that it's not going to be applicable to any of the projects that we have listed on the capital for this year.
Is that a changing, updating list of things that are inclusive?
No, they've been pretty firm about that. I do know that there is forthcoming a local finance notice from the state of New Jersey, and whether that mirror images the federal, because I think the federal will supersede the state in terms of how that money's going to be spent. I don't know what that's going to say. We're expecting that to come out any day.
Can you let us know on council as soon as that comes out?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks.
I guess he had a last question, which is kind of his observations. I will tell you that last year we did not have we had a $450,000 capital budget. That was because it was necessary to fund two agreements in the police department. And if you recall, we also faced the issue with switching over from the Microsoft Windows, because they were no longer going to service the level that we had. So we had to put that together, that $450,000. It was really the mayor's intention to have a capital budget last year. So,
Pretty much we're doing a capital budget of 7.7, 7.8 right now. Is it fair to say that last year's projects and this year's project are both being done with this capital budget?
yes.
Thank you. Our next question is from Denise Coyne, 1060 Cheese Landing Road in Clementon. Her question is, what is the status of the agreement of sale for block 12301, lot 4 from the township back to GTHA? The answer to that question is question 1. Agreement of sale of block 12301, lot 4 is still under negotiation and nothing has been finalized. Oops. Question 2. What is the status of T&M's redevelopment study of the lots in the Village of Gloucester redevelopment plan? How much money has been paid to T&M for this study to date? Did we pay to have a study done on lots 12, 13, 14, and 15? How much was paid to T&M for the redevelopment plan completed in June of 2015? All right, bear with me. All right, what we have paid to T&M for the Village of GT. All right, that one, we are not sure what Denise is referring to for the development plan completed in June of 15. So I'm sure we'll have any, she'll ask further questions. 2 was, what is the status of T&M's redevelopment study of the lots of Gloucester Township development? Next, do we have an answer to 2 that I?
Trace,
What?
I'm sorry, with regard to the amount of money spent, I think we did determine that. It was 22,000, under 22,300.
Okay.
But there was not, I did not know what she was referring to the 2015. There was two questions there. One was the village greens.
Which is the 22,000, correct? Village Green's 22,000.
22,000. Okay, so that's what we have for two.
When did we get this question? We get this question this morning, 9:47 this morning?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll make sure.
And
I know Ken did some research on it too.
Good, well, that's great that you can get that information so quickly.
the answer to number 3 is, according to recent land development application for redevelopment agreement, the applicant, oh, I'm sorry, you probably can't hear me. For the answer to number 3, according to the recent land development application for redevelopment agreement, the applicant is proposing 22 detached, single-family dwellings, corporate, okay, corporate disclosure. All right, so that answers 1, 2, and 3, I believe.
No, the market rate.
Thank you.
That's not.
Sorry, I had enough.
Doing great, Grace.
All right. I think that's it, right, Jenny? Yes. We are good. All right, that's all of our GTE Gov access questions. We now open the second public portion. We have 5 minutes to discuss, each person has 5 minutes to discuss any item the public chooses to. Please state your name and your address. So, anyone for the second public portion? Denise?
Denise Coyne, Choose Landing.
Good evening, Denise.
Good evening. Question number 2 about T&M's redevelopment study. I asked if we paid to do a study on lots 12, 13, 14, and 15. That wasn't answered.
I don't, I wouldn't know that.
We'll have to look into that then.
Yeah, I don't know if Ken was able to look at that.
It says, for number 2, that might be my fault. The township received a draft redevelopment study and preliminary investigation report.
And I'm talking about them doing a redevelopment study on the lots in the village of Gloucester that the grocery store is building on.
Mr. Lechner, can you
Yeah, I can
assist us?
answer that. Apologize, I didn't see the lot numbers. The
That's okay.
study is on the west side of the Black Woods Pike, from Lakeland Road north to where Corsino's, I think it's Marshall Avenue, don't quote me on the other streets, but it's from Lakeland Road, which I do believe it includes those lots.
Yes.
Yes, that's it.
Yes. So we paid TMM to do a study on those lots, right?
Well, the study
To see if
includes
they
those lots.
qualify to be in a redevelopment zone.
Yeah.
But since that time, they've been purchased, or there's a contract, I guess, to buy it, to build the grocery store there, correct?
Yeah.
So,
Well, that application came in for development while T&M was doing the study, so we can't prevent someone from making an application.
okay, but the study was ordered over a year and a half ago. What happened to it? I mean, is it done? Is it not done? Is it still in progress? Is it?
It's in draft, we received the draft report. I don't speak on behalf of T&M Associates, but I believe with the pandemic and everything was kind of put on hold for a while. Both this report and the Blackwood West, but we see both of them in draft.
Okay, because I think last I heard, you said that the report was done and you were waiting to have a conference with T&M and the mayor. And that was almost a year ago, I believe. You know if that ever happened?
Are you suggesting that the draft was done a year ago?
I'm suggesting that Mr. Leckman said previously that the study was done and they were just waiting to have a conference with the mayor to update him on the
You
status.
said that was a year ago, though.
I believe it was about a year ago, yeah.
I believe it was about a year ago. So what would that be? That would be, we're in May, so May of 2020. Did we have a draft in May of 2020 on this? I'd have to check. Can you do that for us? No, that's not right.
Okay, and then the redevelopment plan was the original plan that was done by TMN in 2015. There was supposed to be a study done at that time also, and there was an estimated cost to have both of those done. For the redevelopment plan amendment, it was $22,300, which is, I think, the figure that was quoted now, and that was for the plan, not for the study. And then there was a separate amount for the plan that was done in 2015. And that was, no, I'm sorry, 12,500 was for the plan and for the study, I mean, and 22,300 was for the plan.
In 2015.
Right. But that was never done, and now it supposedly is being done. So I'm wondering if we're paying to amend the original plan also.
Without having the documents in front of me, I believe $12,000 was TNM had done a study on behalf of the township to determine what areas in that southern section of the Black Horse Pike, south of, south of Meadows Diner. Meadows Diner, that stream there is the boundary of the Blackwood West. The area south along the Black Horse Pike, I believe the $12,000 was to study that whole area to determine what area may qualify for redevelopment. And then they came back with a second proposal to do the preliminary investigation and a redevelopment plan for that tax map section for the $22,000. So the first $10,000 or $12,000 was to determine whether or not the area even qualified. They felt as though that area in the tax map qualified. And then step 2 was to do the preliminary investigation on the statutory requirements and a redevelopment plan for that one section.
Okay. And then also, are lots 12, 13, 14, and 15 still going to be included now that they've been purchased and are under contract to build the grocery store?
Go ahead, Ken. Do you know?
They could be, yes. I don't think there's anything to prevent them from being included in the area redevelopment.
Okay, would that be a benefit for the township for that to happen? For them to be included, or it doesn't matter one way or the other?
I don't know how to answer that. I mean, it's a benefit. The redevelopment area is a different statutory land use. Different statutes applicable to land use. There's different things that a developer is entitled to determine a redevelopment area. It would be entitled, the town. This particular redevelopment area does not consider any condemnation powers that the council would have. So the second item would be a payment in lieu of taxes. If it's determined that the area qualifies for a redevelopment area, then the potential exists for a developer to request the mayor for a payment in lieu of taxes.
So it would benefit them
Well, it would benefit everybody.
and the township, because the township would get the tax money and not have to go to the schools, correct?
Well, they could set up any kind of agreement.
Hey, Ken, what's the status of what is it, the shopping mart or shopping store that's going to be built over there? What's the status of that agreement?
I'm not sure I know which.
What's it, Lidl?
Legal,
Lidl.
we're just waiting for the revised plan.
Is that a done deal?
It's ongoing. I mean, their attorney is before the board for an extension because it included a minor subdivision. But I believe they're getting tied up with the state
We had a previous,
NJDOT requirements. Because
didn't we have a previous, situation with that particular, what is it, what do you call it, a shop? Yeah, the operator? Yes.
Yeah, they were gonna build twice here before.
Didn't that fall through?
Yep.
Okay, so
Berlin.
are we suggesting that we should pull, I think Denise is saying we should pull these lots out of the redevelopment because it's a done deal and it's only gonna benefit the township?
not a done deal until it's a done deal.
Okay, so it could fall through like the other one did.
Who knows?
Okay, so Denise, do you understand my logic for not wanting to pull them out? Okay, I just want to make sure.
Okay, and then question number 3, I don't think I got an answer to who are the owners of the Lakeside Business Park LLC.
I sent a copy of the disclosure statement.
Oh,
submitted with
wait,
the
I
application.
saw that. Yeah.
There's several people, so I
Okay.
thought it was easier just to send a disclosure.
Thanks, Ken. The owners, yeah, there are as follows. Omer Salman, the Granite Group. The Granite Group is owned by Dave Pannoni, Vince Pannoni, Andrew Pannoni, Diane Wendling. And the owners of Cobblestone Inc. are Donald Paparone.
Okay,
Do you have a lot more questions?
no. The only other comment I have is, you answered for question number 3, when I asked if they'd be market rate or affordable. Somebody said they were market rate, but the documentation that goes with that resolution says that they're affordable. So I don't know if there's an error.
The word affordable was in parentheses. I didn't interpret it to say that they were going to be affordable.
Okay, well, it said affordable, so. I didn't know if that was an
But they
error.
were incorrect. I didn't interpret it as that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Burns?
Good evening, council. Once again, Brian Burns, 5 Solar Drive Aerial. A couple of things on the agenda this evening regarding a continued effort to preserve open space. I want to get an update on the Roseland Bridge. I know that the new boundary came in and was submitted to Green Acres. Is that correct, Ken?
Yeah.
Are we in the legal department? Do we have a closing date? Are we getting any closer?
We don't have a closing date, but I knew you were going to ask me that question. I could ask for an update, not only from the legal department upstairs, but also from the sellers who really are. I have not seen a sort of preliminary deed a while back, but where it is as far as closeness to closing date, I don't have that information. I can get it.
Is the ball on the township's court or is it Green Acres court?
I think we're mostly waiting for Green Acres. That was the slowdown of the project. I think the other issues with the seller, as far as personal issues and the estate and all, I think they've all been resolved. As soon as we know we have to go ahead, we can kind of fine tune it, schedule for closing.
Okay, the other things on the agenda, I've reached out to 2 homeowners. One is with us this evening, the Murrays here, who would like to have their land preserved through Green Acres. They have about 60 acres. Ken should have a letter from them already, with lot numbers. Do you have that letter, Ken?
I don't recall getting a letter, or I recall getting an email.
Okay, they have a letter with them this evening. You have a copy? And also Helen Hayes. Did you receive a letter from the Hayes?
Only an email.
Okay, see, she has another 40 acres. So the Murrays have 60, we have another 40 from the Hayeses, that's 100. In addition to the Roseland Bridge is about another 50, it's 150 acres. The Little Mill HOA has 40 acres. So we're up to about 200 acres preserved. It's pretty amazing.
Do you think that this weekend we can go take a walk?
I'm actually taking the Trumpsters to the Trumps Golf Course on a nature hike Saturday. Could do it Sunday morning.
I'm going on Sunday morning, but I'd really like to do that. Maybe if they don't mind, we can take a look at their
Yeah,
property.
is that acceptable? Okay. Okay. I will touch base. So if you think about it, I mean, we have a Superfund site on one side of the road, which is about as much damage as you can do to the environment as humanly possible. And yet, right on the other side, we have the potential to save 200 acres in an ecologically sensitive area. And it's one continuous piece of land. And if you join that with the 400 acres of Trump Golf Course, you're talking 600 acres preserved. You know, you're preserving water quality, you're preserving open space for people to go and get away from all the congestion around here. Have you guys ever been on Sickler Road by the Super Wawa at rush hour? It backs up from 42 all the way up to Canals. It's crazy. And it's just more development going on, and yet we have this ecologically sensitive area with endangered plants and brook trout, and now we have the opportunity, we have the money. I have it, and Ken has it. We've got $1.6 million. So the Hayes property and the Murray property doesn't even takes a little chunk out of that, and there's still plenty more. And the land has to be used to buy properties. So here we are. The money is there. The residents say it's been in their generation for four generations. They want to save it. The Hayes family wants to save it. So it's, there's the money. There's the people. Let's get this thing done. 200 acres, man. That's a lot of land. And you can leave council someday and say, you want to know what I did for the environment? We have an ecological preserve with rare and endangered plants and animals, and we saved it. To me, that's an amazing thing. It's a feel-good thing, and it's an important thing for the community. And I don't think there's any open space in the township larger than that. If there is, Ken, you would probably know that. We have anything bigger than 200 acres open to the public?
I don't think so.
No?
Actually, it's big, it's more than 200 acres. It's like 260.
Yeah. Amazing. So it's, it's on the table. It can be done. If I could go into all the offices here and do it myself, I would do it. But, the only thing I can do is come here and say, the money is here, the people are here. Let's do these deals. Let's get them done and preserve this land. It's a lot better to save 100 total acres than it is to save 10 plots of 1 acre apiece. That doesn't do much for wildlife and habitats and ecology. It's saving the big expanses that we have, and I don't think there's anything bigger in the township left. And even the Waddell farm, there might be 100 acres. So it's, I'm hoping I'm inspiring you guys to let's get this stuff done. If I can go into Ken's office and the solicitor's office and do it myself, I would do it myself. So it's up to you guys, please. Ken, do you have plans to put these properties on the Green Acres list for the remaining funds?
I have a draft letter that I'll be sending Green Acres by the end of the week that lists the expenditures of our existing balance, which includes your property and the Hayes property. Those properties, just so everyone understands, it's based on a certified market value from Green Acres. So the township attorney's office may be contacting you to get some type of letter of commitment. So you understand that it's based on a certified market value that's determined by the state appraiser. So this property may probably going to be more than $200,000, so we're going to require 2 appraisals. And then there's an environmental report that has to get done, title report, and survey. So the town has expenditures that we're going to have to do. So
But also the township.
Just so you understand, the Marys, the town's probably going to need some kind of a written commitment from you before we embark spending taxpayers' money that you're committed, and that once we get the certified market value, you're locked in. You can't say, no, we changed our mind.
Right, and I think I am correct in saying that we do have a land acquisition tax that actually got approved at the last council meeting. It goes through, so there's money there. Oh, and the other thing is, in writing here, okay, the Office of Natural Resource Restoration is looking for additional properties in this watershed. So this will cost the township nothing. Green Acres, 75%, Office of Natural Resource Restoration, 25%, and you guys already have the money through the land tax, preservation tax, whatever it's called, that went through the last meeting or so.
Mr. Leckner, could you forward the letter that you're sending to Green Acres? Can you forward that to Mr. Carlemere?
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah, here's the letter.
Mr. Carter's copy on
you. Beautiful.
All right, thank you, Mr. Burns.
You're welcome.
Can we look
Just-
forward to?
Count, just so you understand, the town has about 1.6 million in grant funding already.
Okay.
And Green Acres has asked me to show where the town's expending this money.
Right.
Otherwise, they could take it from them. They've done it before. So
Yeah.
I've discussed with the administration and the Murray's property and the Hayes property, Pompey, there's several properties all in this general area, and if the Office of Natural Resource Restoration, Mr. Burns, you can email me that letter. They are contributing to the Roslyn Bridge property, 25%. So just so you understand, the Roslyn Bridge is $215,000. We're not paying any of that. Green Acres is paying 75%. The Office of Natural Resource Restoration is paying the other 25%. All we're gonna have to pay is 25% of professional costs, which is gonna be about $10,000.
Ken, would you mind giving council, as best you can, a timeline for when we can expect these things to possibly take place, all things going the way we want them to? I understand appraisers have to be brought in, they have to do their job. I understand all that. Just give us an idea, because I don't understand the process, getting it from where it is now to where it's finalized. That would be helpful.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the Roslyn Bridge has been going on since 2017. I mean, I know the average acquisition through Green Acres should not take that long.
That's the Samos situation, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you and I, we I told you, that had nothing to do with the town.
Yeah.
Okay, that's other situation.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else for public portion? Paul?
You coming with me, Paul? What's that? You coming with me outside that?
I wish I could, I'm unfortunately. Mr. Burns, thank you. I've been coming for about 2.5 years, and you're one of the recognizable faces continuing to fight your fight, and I certainly appreciate it. And as a constituent of all of you, I support Mr. Burns and this 200 acres, and I'd like to see it through to fruition as well. I think it's important to conserve our natural resources. With regard, just a couple things from the budget the previous time I went home, thought about a couple of things. Dan, I think you had asked Pete the last time he was up here during the budget meeting, what would you like us to do? And, I thought about it. So I subscribed to a couple of other townships, email lists about their meetings just to see what we do versus what other townships do. And one thing that Washington Township does is they have an open public meeting with the department heads. It's a 2-hour meeting broken up into 20-minute increments, and it includes Department of Law, Public Works, Police, Clerk's Office, Court, Administration, Finance, Environmental Open Space, Tax Office, Human Resources, Zoning, and Construction. For someone like me and Denise and Pete and Sam and Ray and others who are more consistent and interested in the details, it would be a suggestion I make that potentially we have something like that, because it's hard to get all the information I'd like to hear in kind of 5-minute increments, just over 30 minutes. So that's one suggestion. I guess the second suggestion is with regard to the surplus, that seems as though it can fluctuate from year to year, although it seems as though you could reasonably peg a surplus that for the emergency situations you spoke about, Dan, we need the surplus, I agree, but the fact that it could be $4 million one year and $1 million the next year, could we peg a surplus number, maybe 1.2 million, that increases with inflation to protect against those emergency situations, but doesn't allow the surplus to get out of hand? And the reason that I think that may be a decent idea is because, let's say the $4 million a year where we have the surplus, that rolls over to the next budget. Well, then if you decide to increase taxes, you're now increasing taxes on a budget number that's $4 million higher. And so let's take 2020, when you did 9.75, it was off of a number that had a $3 million surplus on top of that.
Well,
You understand what I'm saying?
You lost me in the parking lot when we were talking about this, and you lost me again. I'm just not getting it. Tom, are you getting it? I apologize, I really did try.
The difficulty with fund balance surplus, the difficulty with fund balance is it comes about in two ways. One is that we don't spend all the appropriations that we have in the budget, and it's actually the budget prior to, because it has to run a period of reserves per year. And the other one that's more, that we're more relied on, or we more or less rely more on, is having revenues beyond what we anticipate. And, I can't predict what's going to happen with that. I don't know whether the GTHA property is going to sell. I don't know. There's certain things that we just don't know. So when you say peg, it's just hard to say, this is going to be the surplus number that we're going to achieve, and this is where we're going to be. Now, places like Cherry Hill, because I know what they have, they don't have a problem with that because they're sitting on $30 million. And they're already applying $13 million to the budget. We, on the other hand, almost have to apply every year the entire amount of surplus, but we also are cognizant that the rating agencies, if they see us deplete surplus to zero, that's going to be a problem when we go to take out the bond issuance. So it's very, very difficult to do what you're saying. Am I speaking correctly?
One thing we are doing is, we are applying virtually all of the surplus available to fill the budget gap.
Unfortunately.
So, where you lose me is when you start saying we're 9% over the prior year, and maybe you just need to show me that on paper, and maybe I'll get it then, and we can talk about it at a different hearing. It's not happening. It's not coming.
That's my explanation based on what I understand your question.
Okay, understood. Yeah, it's a suggestion, something I thought instead of it moving back and forth and, running into the conversation of overtaxation, which I can see how that's a viewpoint and an argument. If it was pegged in some way to have that emergency fund and pegged, within a reasonable amount, but not that it could fluctuate $2 million in a single year, barring $1 million property sale. You know what I mean? I think that would be a reasonable solution. I don't want to spend too much time on this. I had a couple of other things, suggestions that maybe we could look at, and like you said, Dan, talk offline. Ken, not to harp on the Black Horse Pike development and be the bearer of bad news, and I know you won't have an answer to this question, but I ask out of concern. Do we have any indication of the financial health of Simon Properties with regard to the premium outlets? And I ask this because my wife and I patronized the property over the weekend, and I don't think it's an exaggeration that approximately a third of the units are currently empty at that property. In addition to that, because a third of the rental units are empty, certainly landscaping has taken a hit, and the property, as far as me and my wife were concerned, didn't look to be upkept to the standard I think many of us would expect. And so that got me thinking that it's kind of a custom-built single-use property, which, if that was to fall by the wayside, would be a real economic hit. So if there's ways that maybe we could step in and help or assist or recognize early enough the issue, it's probably something we'd want to do preventatively.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, it's something I'm bringing up because although obviously I'm aware that the pandemic hit retail most hard, but really in the larger industry, all the pandemic did was speed up the inevitable of these businesses. Direct to consumer is the way the market's going. Brick and mortar has been struggling from pre-pandemic. So we obviously don't want the trend to continue for that property, given its size and, extent to the tax base and all of that. So something maybe we want to look into. And then just Mr. Chadwell, I think the Gloucester Township Health Trail, the bridge was done over the weekend. Is that correct? All right, thanks for your work on that. I think the bikes are back on the trail as well, which is great to see. So thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you. Anyone else for the public portion? Yes.
Elizabeth Dugan Blenheim. So I wanted to get some clarification on the capital surplus that Mr. Curtis was talking about. I think he mentioned a number that was like 500,000 that was remaining after everything. At this point,
Not capital, general fund.
general. Okay, I withdraw my question. So the 7 million that is being borrowed at this point, was that anticipated when the budget was created and adopted at the last meeting?
No, I did not have that prepared for that meeting, no. We've been working on that more recently.
Between,
I had
in the last
lists,
2 weeks?
I had lists of projects, for example, from Mr. Chadwell. I had lists of projects from Public Works, I had lists of projects from the chief, but again, I was still putting all that together.
Elizabeth, I think a fair answer to your question is that everybody knew that there was going to be there's a tremendous need for these capital projects in this year or the next year. I think anybody who is up here who doesn't recognize that there is a tremendous need when you don't do anything last year, you have to assume that.
That hurt.
I mean, I think all of us assume that was coming.
Okay. The final question that I had is, do you anticipate any additional borrowing for 2020?
What?
2021?
No. Besides the 7 million?
Yes.
No, I do not.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Denise will be the last one.
Denise Coyne, choose land. The resolution 21-05-150, where Remington and Vernick are going to submit a grant application for the NJDOT. Is that money, I'm assuming that's money that's going to be used for roads,
Yes.
grant money?
I'll defer to Anthony since.
Okay, so can any of this money be used to offset the money that we're talking about tonight?
I would say no, because you're still making the application at this point. You won't get the approval till when? Once, end of the year. Right.
Okay, so what happens to this money if we get the grant money and you've also got the money?
I don't think we're applying for the same thing that's in this budget. Right.
Okay, so if we do get the grant money, it won't be used for anything?
No.
Okay,
But if it were, that's a good question though. If the grant application is for what's in the capital project, the specific line item in there, and we get the grant before the end of the year, I think that the ordinance calls for it can be used to pay down that, can it?
Right, that's what we do. We would cancel it like we did at the last meeting. The question, we would reuse it and we would realize it as a revenue in the budget to offset the debt payment. That's what the question is that is brought up occasionally about canceling debt service. That's what we would do in a situation like that. And that's why it would happen.
I don't recall though, appropriating money in the capital for a road that we're filing an NJD.
Okay. I was reading and I thought,
But yeah, that's a great example.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We'll now close the second public portion, polling of directors.
Mr. Parliament,
Nothing to report.
Mr. Curtis,
Nothing to report.
Mr. Lechner,
Nothing to report.
Steve Parkins,
Council, just want to reiterate, it's a question about capital budget. We didn't have a capital budget, as you heard, and I appreciate it's a very difficult year. Just keep in mind, even Mr. Carter said, and Mr. Hutchinson's question about rolling the projects from the previous year, that's not necessarily true for police cars, for instance. This year, we should have gotten our normal allotment. We got 0 allotment of police cars last year, and we're making it work. We're doing what we have to do, but there is, the breakdown happens more as we do have failures and things. So I just want to reiterate how important that is. And, sometimes we teach in the Citizens Police Academy when they get a tour of the police department. The lights never go off here. The computers never stop running. The phones never stop ringing. The cars never stop running. And so wear and tear happens at a much greater rate. We pushed off many projects pre-COVID. We were ready to go, and we had to push them off, and we made do. And Mrs. Errett and Mr. Cardis have been great partners to work with for us to get where we needed to be to continue moving on. So much so that, it was great when we finally got our uniform crime report numbers, that even though many areas throughout the region have seen increases, we had tremendous decrease of violent crime down 15.63% and overall crime down 12.26%. And that was with limited staff because we had a hiring freeze of officers. We're still getting officers up to speed, getting back to the numbers that we were pre-pandemic. And I just think this was our capital budget that we submitted, and I worked with the mayor and Mr. Cardis and Ms. Serrett, is things that we absolutely need. We have computers that are just not working. The technology's starting to go just because they get worn out. So our requests, I think, are necessary requests, and we appreciate your support with that, and I'm certainly open to answer any question on any item about it. On another note, we're thrilled to, as we see the executive order starting to change, I think even by the time we meet again, we may see some differences around here. Tom and I were talking, we'll be meeting to speak with the mayor. But just to reiterate how things that are starting to happen again, we're going to have events in the park. We're going to have community outreach team. Our officers are ready to go out to the parks again this year to have that interaction that we weren't able to have in the past year. And so we're really looking forward to that. We've really done a good job as a township, I think, running through this pandemic and this crisis, and it's been a great team effort. So we're looking forward to getting it even back to normal. As Mr. Krug said, the trail's back open. We have officers going back out and bike. We're getting ready to make contacts with everybody, and we're going to be enjoying even school graduations and normal events. So I just want to thank council for your support and know that we know the support that all of you provide us and how important it is to us to continue to. We're looking for even more decreases. We're never satisfied. So thank you. Have a good night.
How's the board doing? We can talk about.
So to update, Mr. Lauder and Corporal McLaughlin is our main contact. That young man had his surgery. He is still at Children's Hospital recovering, but you can go to the Facebook site, Colin Strong, and he is up walking around. His mother's so happy, so proud of him. He's making much better progress than the previous time. Jen, is that about right? Anything else then?
Yes, sir, and she sent her match that
that's helped them. She's been in contact with me. She's very grateful.
And any links to helping them, Jen is the person, we directed many resources, and we feel like we've adopted Colin here, and we're following his progress, and we're very pleased. So thank you for asking. He's doing well. Thank you for the foundation support.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Trevor,
Nothing to report.
Mr. Hutchinson,
Briefly, one of our dear friends, my political adversary, we go at it all the time here, but he's really a great guy, Ray Polidoro. He's not here tonight. He never misses a meeting. But he's got a challenging situation in front of him. I wish my best to him and his wife tonight. Mr. Burns, I thought about you this weekend. My wife and I took a walk in Timber Creek Park, and it was beautiful. We were walking down near the water and going through the swamps, and probably came away with 100 ticks. But I thought about you because I thought I was in a different state. I thought I was, I love walking in Central Park in New York because it's such a contrast between the park and the rest of the city. And I felt that way when I was in Timber Creek Park the other day. And I swore that I would remember when I came here, and I was hoping that you were going to be here because I want to thank you for your passion on this topic. And you're absolutely 100% correct. If I, as a councilman, can come away from my experience up here knowing that I did something to bring about what your passion is calling for, then I'm going to be happy at the end of the day. Which brings, Paul, I didn't intend to say this, but Paul has the same passion with respect to the Black Horse Pike area down there. And although we may not see progress, Paul, I'd like to see that. It really could be very nice. So thank you very much, guys. I appreciate it.
Ms. Grace, just want to thank everyone for coming out and you had your really great questions tonight. I appreciate that, and just have a safe night going home.
Chief, thank you for all the explanations you provided tonight. I appreciate that. Mr. Burns, I want to echo what Councilman Hutchinson said. I applaud you for your enthusiasm for the families of the Murrays and the Hayes, and it's well noticed. Thank you very much. Everyone, please be safe going home. Have a great week.
Steps. Hope everyone has a good evening. Stay safe. Have a happy and safe Memorial Day. Hope that everyone enjoys their holiday. And again, be safe.
Mrs. Reynolds,
I want to thank everyone for coming out with the comments. Mr. Burns, I'm hoping we can move forward and be successful in that process. We're finally opening up. We're seeing lots of changes in the area. Just please keep in mind, you still need to be safe and be careful. But I'm hoping we just continue moving forward in that direction. Be safe and have a great week.
Mrs. Trotter,
Thank you all for coming out. A couple reminders. This Monday is our annual Memorial Day service. We will have our services at 11 a.m. right out here at the memorial site. So if you can make it, please try to stop by. It's really a nice memorial service that we put on. Also, we have coming up on June 18th, the first movie night of Onward at the park, and the admission is free. All right.
Mr. McConnell,
Thank you for coming out this evening. Mrs. Trotter, you did an excellent job.
We have a coup. We have a coup d'etat here.
Don't get any
I'm
ideas.
going to be honest. Another old planning board days. They used to put me in the corner under a different administration. Thank you for coming out. Thank you, Mr. Cardis and Mr. Eric, on your work on the capital budget. Mr. Cardis went above and beyond this weekend, explaining things to council members. We spent a considerable amount of time on the phone, Mr. Carson and I, over the last few days, discussing our capital projects. And so if you take a look at some of the street improvements that we're making in this capital project, this is parts of our aging community. And I look at like the top 10 that are listed here, where it is Glendora, it is downtown Blackwood, it's Railroad Avenue, Taylor Avenue, Broad Acres Drive, Peter Cheeseman, Highland Avenue, South Otter Bank in Glendora section, 13th Avenue off the Black Horse Pike. This is the aging part of our community, and this is maintenance, required maintenance for to keep those communities up to the standards throughout our township. In addition to that, we maintain 38 buildings throughout the township. And those 38 buildings, there are improvements that need to be made. Those buildings include not just the municipal buildings that you see here, but also the buildings that we have in our recreational facilities throughout the township. As the chief so eloquently stated too, with the budget that's provided for our police department and the decrease in crime that we have, these are the tools that we provide our employees so they can do their job. So I want to thank you for the work that you've done on this, Mr. Cardis and Mrs. Eric. I appreciate that. One more announcement, June 12th is the Gloucester Township Scholarship 5K race here at 9 o'clock at Veterans Park. If you can't run, you can walk around the circle. There's a 1 mile walk as well. With that, thank you very much and have a great evening.
Do I have a motion to adjourn? Second? All those in favor? Meeting adjourned.
You guys.
Oh, you doing it?